Hello everyone, welcome to Group 6 Internet GIS project, where we are looking at the life journey of a coffee from bean to brew. In our project, we are looking to explore the spatial patterns across the coffee supply chain. This page that I'm now on details our overall research in a readable format, which covers the abstract, introduction, data description, methodology, results and discussion, conclusion, our contribution, and our references. So in our project, we are looking at 4 different parts of the coffee supply chain: the production conditions, the supply chain patterns, trade patterns, and marketing insights. The overall goal of this project is to create a web GIS platform that integrates that 4 areas, which we'll now look at. So welcome to our homepage, which covers the origin story, the coffee belt and global expansion, an industry that touches every corner. This is our homepage, which covers an introductory into the coffee supply chain. We can go back to our research background information page by clicking this button. But let us look now at the different 4 factors that we mentioned earlier. So first off is nature. So we start off with this card here, which explains the environmental conditions to produce coffee for Robusta and Arabica. And here are some information on the main producers of coffee. And this is our map that visualizes the different environmental conditions of coffee. So this is a scene view where we can rotate it and see the different countries at different angles. This is a layer list which we can toggle on and on the visibility, as well as see the different legends inside it. If we now look at Brazil, we can take a closer look and see the different other variables that affect coffee. So currently what we can see mostly here is the annual rainfall along the coast. For the elevation data, it does take a little bit of time to load, but there's a way to improve it. Here we have a custom slider that as we shift, we can influence the elevation being shown as well as the slope. We also can change the color. So the ideal height is from between 200 to 2000, and the slope is from 0 to 30. So now here we can see in blue where the areas where the elevation meets the ideal height to grow coffee, whether it be for Arabica or Robusta. We can also change the color to have better visibility. Now it's red. We can also rotate the tilt of the camera to see the different aspects better. Here is a small information bar which highlights where your camera view is. So currently here we see that along the coast of Brazil, there are many areas where the elevation is sufficient. If we turn back on the annual temperature, we can see it's also mostly covered. So we shall turn that off because it is not a limiting factor. But in this case, it is rain that is the limiting factor. There's not sufficient rain inland, and for coffee, farmers usually depend on rain as compared to rivers and other water sources. So for the coast of Brazil, where coffee is grown, elevation is the limiting factor. Now, if we move on to like Colombia, you can similarly see that rainfall seems to be also a limiting factor for some areas. But in other areas, it seems elevation is the limiting factor. Now, if we move on to Vietnam, you can see that rainfall is also a limiting factor, even though more inland, there is quite a number of places quite a big area where elevation is suitable, there is not enough rainfall. So these are some examples where we can see. Here is also a slider where we can adjust if we want to see at different rainfall in the world. So this is for some testing and trying purposes. The rest of the web page which shows an evaluation of the different factors. So temperature is here, altitude is here, rainfall here, and there's also an overall evaluation. The below cards show the other environmental conditions and whether tectonic areas could be used as a potential guide, as elevation is influenced by the tectonic movement. Finally, the bottom part is some data sources and references for the information above. Now we'll be moving on to the next page.
Next, let's take a look at global coffee production trends. I will guide you through an interactive website that shows data from 2013 to 2022. It highlights key indicators, including total productions, yield efficiency, and cultivated areas in different countries. It gives us a good sense of the scales and change in coffee productions around the world. The schematic map uses proportional symbols to represent coffee productions at the country level. You can use the time sliders to see how production volume changed over the years. Countries like Brazil, Vietnam, and Colombia consistently stand out as the world's top producers. The total production number for each year is shown at the bottom right, and top 5 countries for each year are displayed on the right panel as well. In addition to total production output, this map also shows yield per hectare, which reflects land use efficiency. You can switch to this data to see how efficiently different countries use their land for coffee farming. For example, China and Malaysia have high yield efficiency, meaning they produce a lot of coffee from a smaller area of land. Next, let's switch to the cultivated area layer, which shows how much land is used for coffee farming. Countries like Brazil and Indonesia have vast cultivated area, reflecting their large-scale coffee production. To better understand the relationship among these indicators, we have included parallel coordinate plots. This visualization reveals that a high yield doesn't always equate to high total production. For example, while Malaysia has high yield efficiency, meaning it produces a lot of coffee per unit of land, its overall coffee production output remains smaller because its total production volume and cultivated areas are not as large as some of the leading producers. In contrast, Brazil, despite not being the most efficient in terms of yield, still ranks highest in total productions. This is due to its extensive cultivated area, which compensates for its lower yield efficiency, allowing it to maintain its position as one of the world's top coffee producers. Also, there's a time slider below the plot that allows users to explore how these indicators change over time and to view data for specific years. Let's head back to the map page. At the bottom, you will find reference and some extra information if you would like to explore more.
So let's take a look at the global coffee training patterns. First, upon opening the page, the top section provides an overview of global coffee production and the training chain. It's a very brief introduction of this whole page. Below that, you'll find a map visualizing global coffee chain flows. It was shown as a dashboard. This map highlights three key geographic elements: coffee exporting countries, importing countries, and the chain flow connecting them. The exporter and the importers are represented by the circular markers where the size reflects the trained volume, and the trained flow are shown as lines reflecting the trained volume too. So when you click the flow, it will show a pop-up. There are some details about the trend, about the exporter, importers, resource, volume, weight, and the training year. So in these sections, you can select the different layers. And you can also change the base map, export the map, and search some size. On the left side of this dashboard is a control panel. You can select different data by coffee tab and year. And here is also a year sliders. When you click to play, it will show how the trend patterns change. As you apply the sections on the left, the charts on the right will update. And you can also select specific countries to show the makeup of the trend participant. Below this dashboard, there are some additional instructions about to explain how this imbalance in the trend patterns will create it. There are some reasons or some analysis. This highlights the major events in recent years that impact trend. This little video shows how coffee trend unfolds in the real world, while this shows the coffee as a futures, reflecting how the financial power remains concentrated in developed country. It will change over time. And if you want to know more about coffee trends, interesting information, you can click here. You can get these interesting informations and instructions. And click it will hide. Here is some data source and references. And if you click this homepage button, you will go back to the homepage. Okay, so next part is the market insight.
Marketing insight and consumer interest. In this top section, we introduce why we choose Starbucks, Tim Hortons, and Luckin Coffee. And there's a homepage button. If we click this, we'll back to the homepage of our group. And on the left panel, if we click, we will see coffee shop location in SG. This coffee location. And this symbol means the independent coffee in Singapore, which is localized coffee shop. And this means chain coffee shop. We can see this includes Tongborough Bakery, Forward, Tim Hortons, and so on. If we click this, the right panel will show the name, address, and the Google rating. If we click this button, we'll jump into the official website. Now let's move on to Google Trends Map. As we can see the legend, different color means different brands. If we click Starbucks, we will see the Starbucks global search share, and the transparency shows different trends. And this is Tim Hortons global search share. This is Luckin Coffee global search share. scroll down, we can see the real-time brand stock price. And this is powered by TradingView. In this section, we will see some insights on global coffee brands. And here is a brand introduction. If we click this button, we will jump into Starbucks official website. And here is some brand position comparison. The ESG reports from major brands, which is Starbucks and Tim Hortons from RBI. If we click, we will see the ESG report by Starbucks. And here is the data source.